What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Bird Flock podcast. I know you guys missed me. It's been a minute since I've been here. Shayne's been holding down the fort. But ladies and gentlemen, training camp at the time we're recording this is what, 2 days away now?
It's coming, buddy. It starts on Monday, I think, and man, I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys saw our Instagram story. Any Alice players, any new Alice players hopping in the city, you know who to go to for the restaurant recommendations. Hit our DMs. Obviously, we got a nice list going. Spoke to a few of the guys. They're gonna get there trying it out. But today is our, I don't want to call it our 2023 season preview just yet, because I think we'll have a whole episode for that. But let's call this one the training camp preview draft summary episode, something along those lines. Obviously, we had the CFL draft last week. Welcomed a whole lot of new talent to the Alouettes. So today we'll go over that a little bit and then jump into just the roster, our projected starters, our thoughts on the roster, our thoughts on all these positions, and then go from there a little bit. But Shayne, I know you said you had the list of Al's draft picks popped up on your screen here. Why don't you go through it with me a little bit, and we'll obviously talk about it.
All right. First of all, I just want to say, fired up to have you back on here with me, buddy. It's I definitely missed you. Probably missed you more than the fans because I love doing this with you. But let's get it started here with the global draft. They went with a need here. Drafted the lineman out of Oregon State from Sweden, Simon Lars Sandberg. And then in the second round of the global draft, they went from Australia and Louisiana Lafayette, a punter, Reese Burns. I don't know how you're feeling about those two. Like I said before, I've always said it was a big need to bring in more D-line depth, and they did that in the first round. Punter, I mean, it's never a bad thing to bring in competition, but I hope my boy Zima can try and hold him off here.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think he'll have a problem holding him off. I've never seen, I'm not a huge advocate, but I'm not a huge fan of punter highlight tape, so can't say I've seen Reese Burns' highlight tape, but Zima's done nothing but perform, I think, since he's come to Montreal. So I wouldn't be overly stressed about that. But yeah, the D-line draft, one of the, I don't want to call them skill positions, but in these global drafts, it's so many kickers and punters that I guess we can kind of call a D-lineman a skill position in this sense. But one of the best skill position guys in the global draft. Obviously, he was a, what was it, Pac-12 honorable mention or something like that for all Pac-12 team. So the guy can obviously play. I'm fired up to have him. I think, we'll see a lot in that preseason game. I'm sure he'll get a lot of reps here. Obviously, a lot of the American guys will get a lot of reps in that preseason game. But no, I'm fired up. I think that's an absolutely great pick.
Yeah, I love it too. I mean, it's not very often you see kind of rookies come in and make an impact, but like you said, in the preseason, they're going to give him a chance to go and see what he's doing. And just back to Zima, I know talking to him and everybody's that's listening to that episode, he loves Montreal, and he just signed that contract extension. I don't think he's going anywhere. So, it's always good to have another guy waiting there in case he gets hurt. Knock on wood, hopefully that doesn't happen. But throw that guy on the practice roster maybe and create an internal competition and let Zima get the his best work in there for him.
100%. And then later that afternoon, we went into the actual CFL draft, and we had 2 first-round picks this year.
Yeah, I mean, the Owls kicked it off again. I think 2 of the biggest needs on their team here. They went and they took Jonathan Sutherland out of Penn State. They have him listed here as a linebacker. I know he could play DB as well, but probably going to be a linebacker, just like when I talked to Reggie Stubblefield. Kind of a big DB, undersized linebacker, and that's probably what he's going to be in Montreal. And then, at 7, they went and got a D lineman in Uguak from TCU. He's from Edmonton. Like I said before, big position in need, and to get those 2 in the first round was big. And I think those 2 guys are going to be stars in the CFL.
100%. Like, and again, I'm a huge Alouettes fan, obviously, but I'm an even bigger fan of just Canadian talent in general. And, for Sutherland, like, I know he's got mini camp with the Seahawks. So from that perspective, I hope we never see him in Montreal, right? I hope he
Yeah, yeah,
goes,
exactly.
makes his bag in the CFL. We never see him in Montreal, but as a Montreal Alouettes fan, I think you can make the argument you got the best player in the draft, right? And not only that, there's obviously the character side of it. And I think, in his time at Penn State, Jonathan Sutherland was like renowned as an unbelievable locker room guy, team captain for 3 years, I think it was. So I couldn't be more happy with that pick. And then Uguak, like just a huge addressing of needs, right? We saw a slide of D line in that draft, especially too. And I think again we got the best, if not the second best, at his position in this draft.
And for those of you listening right now, we're not just saying this. Obviously, me and Dawson were talking throughout the draft, and these are two guys at the beginning of the draft we had saying that it'd be great if Montreal got them. So we're not just saying that because Montreal drafted. These are guys
Mhm.
we kind of targeted
We got the
and
receipts. I got the receipts.
yeah, so saw guys as people that can come in and fill the positions of need. Going here to the second round, they went ahead and they drafted some homegrown talent here and a fullback from Laval and David Dallaire. Um, you know, uh, Montreal loves their fullbacks. It seems always adding fullback in every off season, and I find they're one of the teams that they don't use them often, but I don't see other teams really having fullbacks on their roster. But Montreal always seems to have one. Um, Look, a kid from here, why not give him a chance?
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know much about him. And then we were texting in the group chat a little bit, and it was either you or Cam that mentioned this guy's the Canadian Taysom Hill. Like he's just like unreal. So I'm fired up to hear that too. Yeah, it's kind of like when we drafted Reggie Sibasu, right? You don't know he's more of a receiving guy, but I guess we'll call him a fullback in this kind of sense that there's no tight ends really in Canadian football. But no, fired up to have that as well. It wasn't a pick I thought we would go because we have that kind of depth at that fullback tight end position, but and we ended up drafting two fullbacks.
Mm-hmm.
But no, at the time I think it's a great pick, and obviously you can't go wrong with some homegrown talent either.
Look, I know Montreal's depth at running back, and Stanback's not a small guy, and he's and neither is Antwi, and they can get the goal line carries. But I'd be interested to see if they give Dallaire um, some reps on the goal line there, just as a bigger body, and not always have to rely on. I know Caleb Evans is coming in to be that guy, and but not have to rely on Caleb Evans and kind of switch up the play every once in a while with him and give it to him. Going to the fourth round, obviously didn't have a third round pick, but going to the fourth round, they went and a guy I've seen play, obviously, because one of my buddies out there at Queens, Theo Grant, offensive lineman from Queens. Look, every game I've seen, he's done his job. He's gotten it done. He's a big boy. Um, you can never have enough O line depth. I think in any
Canadian
league.
O line depth,
Yeah,
especially.
yeah. I know the Alouettes have a lot of Canadian receivers, but if you look at the way most teams are built around here, it's Canadian O line depth to get the best athletes on the field, and it allows you to not have to worry about other positions. So, um, like I said, I've watched him play a couple times over the past couple years. He always got his job done.
Mm-hmm.
Is reliable, and like I said, the depth is something that you need in this league.
100%. Yeah, not much more to add. Like I said, I you can't get mad at adding Canadian depth, especially a huge body too. So cannot
And
complain.
everything I've heard about the guy, obviously, like I said, texting my buddy after he got drafted, and just said off the field, amazing guy, a guy that you want in your locker room and stuff like that. So that's always great to have as well.
Yeah.
Um, Going to the fifth round here, Dawson touched on it earlier. We got the other fullback here from McMaster, Jacob Mason. Um, Again, not going to sit here and say I've watched much of his tape, but like I said, the Alouettes love their fullbacks, and not overly surprising to see them bring in more depth at that position.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sitting here again in the fifth round, they brought in another receiver in Shedler Furvius from St. Mary's. Look, I think it was you that said that you talked to someone. He said that he was going to be an absolute star in this league. So I'm going to let you talk more about him.
Yeah, so I texted my buddy who actually played a little Q at St. Mary's, and I just asked him, I'm like, what's up with this guy we just got in the fifth here? He's like, he couldn't play last year at St. Mary's, but you guys just got the steal of the draft. apparently like an unbelievable talent, an unbelievable athlete. He said like throwing to him was one of his favorite experiences playing college football. Like it, all I can summarize it as like steal of the draft. So I'm fired up to hear that. I'm looking at the roster here now. He's wearing number 70. Don't love that. I think I think if this kid cracks the main roster, he'll definitely get a little upgrade on the digits here. But no, he is without a doubt the one I'm most excited to see in camp, just to see what he can do.
Yeah, I think anytime the word steal of the draft is thrown around, it's always something to get excited about. And like I said before, a lot of Canadian receivers in that room and that are going to be sitting there just wanting to help him. And we've talked to, three guys in the receiving room, and they've all said how great the receiving room is and how much the mentorship in there is big. And that's something that he's coming into, and he's going to get from all those guys. So
Mm-hmm.
he's going to learn from great CFL receivers already, and that's only upside from here.
100%.
Um, Going to the seventh round, and this is kind of where we start seeing, you know, guys that are getting NFL offers, and it's kind of where the guys that would have gone first round, let's say, kind of slip because of their NFL offers or getting drafted in the NFL. And the Alouettes actually took a flyer here on a running back in Chase Brown from Illinois, and it goes back to Sutherland. I want him to stay in the NFL. And to be honest, I think he's going to be an
He will
NFL
be.
guy.
He will
And
be.
I don't know if he's ever going to play a down in CFL or ever even sign a contract in the CFL.
No,
But
yeah.
if he does, man, then we're going back to steal of the draft because
100%.
it's just a guy that was supposed to go first round, probably top two, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
Him
was
and his
out there.
brother.
Yeah, was out there in the NFL. So I'm not going to touch too much more on him because I don't think he's ever going to play. But
No. But man,
uh,
yeah, that he's one I don't even want to see in Montreal because he's got way too much talent. Where if he's not in the NFL, something bad happens. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, listen, the guy was a Cincinnati Bengals draft pick, and out of the fifth round, I mean, not very often you see those guys kind of come back here, especially running backs in the NFL, how much they love them there, and late round picks or steals. Going to the eighth and final round, final pick for the Alouettes here, they went DB Maxim Lavalle from Laval. Um, you know, good pick, DB depth. Montreal loves their Canadian DBs and their Quebecois safeties kind of thing. So
yeah,
not surprising to see them take one in the last round.
100%. All in all, I think it was a really good draft. I think we addressed a lot of needs. I was confused a little bit. You know, why didn't we go receiver other than Shedler? But I'm looking at the depth chart now, which we'll get into in a second. It's a lot better than I thought. It's a lot better than I thought. Obviously, there was huge losses this offseason, but um, I don't think we needed to go receiver. I think we really addressed the needs we needed to, and I couldn't be more happy with the draft, honestly.
Me too. And one thing I'm going to touch on before I get back to the receiving room is, look, it doesn't work the same way in the CFL as it does in the NFL with the draft. These players can go back
Yeah,
to college, and I think most of them are going to go back to college.
yeah,
Obviously, I don't think the guys playing in America can. So the two first round picks, I don't think they can go back, but um, the guys that play in Canada can go back, and they're probably give them a developmental year, and that's probably what's going to happen for most of these
yeah.
guys, if not all of them.
Mhm.
But going back to the receiver, I think
If we're jumping into the main roster, Shaner, I say we start at the top and go Q's here.
all right, bet. Yeah, sure.
All
Let's
right,
go. Let's
let's
run
do
with
it.
the keys.
So shifted into a portion where of the conversation where we're going to be focusing on, the main roster and just giving our feedback a little bit into, our projected starters, our overall opinion on the actual position group, the depth, all that. Let's start on the offense side of the ball. Like I said, at quarterback, obviously on the roster right now, we have in no particular order. I'm going to start with Cody, but Cody Fajardo, Davis Alexander, Caleb Evans, and Mike Glass the third. Look, the reality is it's very possible all three of these guys stay for the whole season. Obviously, there'll be some movement to the practice squad. And maybe, we might sign another camp arm or something like that. But I would not be surprised if all four of these guys were here for the rest of the year.
I think Montreal's really a team that always has three quarterbacks on the active roster anyway, and why not give Glass that chance to sit on the practice roster and learn it? I mean, it's not hurting anybody having him on the practice roster. Um, Could he beat out one of the guys? I'm not going to say no. It's possible. It's definitely possible. I've never seen the. I mean, I've never seen him play live. I've seen his highlight tape, but it's possible for him to beat one of them out. And but I think going into this right now, it's obviously Cody Fajardo starting. I'm interested to see what they do with the backup thing. Do they go with Evans as the backup and as the short down guy, or do they give Davis the backup and go with Evans just strictly as the third down and goal line type of guy?
My gut tells me that Caleb is going to be the backup. That's what my gut tells me. But
Yeah, I think I have to agree with that. But it's like I said, it could change throughout the year, obviously.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, not much controversy, not much to talk about on in that position group. Same thing with the running backs, right? Right now, I think we only have 5 running backs signed. Obviously, the three-headed monster from last year, Jeshrin Antwi, Walter Fletcher, and William Stanback. Fight me all you want. That's the best three-headed monster running back in the
Yep.
league, and I don't think it's close.
Nope.
I'm shocked that Walter Fletcher came back. Don't get me wrong. I'm over the moon that he's back, but I'm like we said it last year in the free agency preview, right? He could have gone somewhere and been the starting running back, right? But to be back now and to be part of that three-headed monster for another year, I think it's huge, right? And then the other two, a signing from this offseason, AJ Rose out of Kentucky, and then Jerry Howard Jr. as well. Don't know much about Jerry at all. Spoke to AJ a little bit when he signed, watched his highlight tape a little bit. Another one of these guys that just seems so excited to be here. But yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are on the running back situation, but again, seems like something where we could see all 5 of these guys on the staying year round in some capacity.
Again, I mean, I don't think anybody was more fired up when we found out Walker was back, right? I think everybody that listens knows that he's, one of my favorite players, one of my top guys in Montreal and in the CFL. But I was scared. I remember texting you when AJ Rose signed, and I said that's probably it for Walter because he could come in and fit that role. And just like you said, talking to AJ Rose, he was excited to be here. He wanted to be here. He wanted to learn the game. I think this gives him a chance. The three-headed monster gives him a chance to actually learn the game and not be thrown into it right away. Kind of sit back and like I said, could fill that Walter Fletcher role if he does go down, with injury or something happens. But let him sit behind Walter Fletcher and learn that role from Walter Fletcher for a year or two, and then ultimately get him in either whether it's here, which would be nice, but or somewhere else in the CFL. Let him learn the game properly and learn the role that he's probably going to be fit in this league.
100%, 100%. So if we had to assign a depth chart to it, I don't even know if I want to say Stanback's 1. I think it might be a 1A, 1B situation with Stanback and Fletcher.
I mean, I think we're coming out in every first snap of the game. It's Stanback standing behind Fajardo.
Yes.
If you want to look at that as that's the starting position, I think every game we're coming out 18 games a year and Stanback is standing behind Fajardo.
Then I will 100% agree with you on that then. And then now jumping into what in any camp is going to be the deepest position group, I think, and that's going to be receivers. There's so many names to go through here, but I'm going to start with guys that are CFL vets at this point or Alouettes vets. That's going to be Regis Sibasu, Greg Ellingson, Jake Hardy, Keon Julian Grant, Kevin Kaya, Hergy Mayala, Tyson Philpott, Cole Speaker, Reggie White Jr., and then if we want to call him a receiver, I think he's the best return man in the league, but Chandler Worthy. Again, that's outside of Jake and Gino that obviously left. It's still a pretty deep receiver room for me. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that, but
look, I said on the free agent special that if we had to try and replace them with one guy, it was Greg Ellingson, and that's what we did. Obviously, I don't think we got that jump ball receiver that I had been talking about in Kamar Jordan in that episode, but they're watching and talking to Keon Julian Grant and watching his Instagram stories. That guy could jump out of the gym, man.
Oh, dude.
And I know he's more of like that screen guy that we always talk about, but if you got to throw it up to him after watching all those Instagram dunk videos, dude, I'm betting that he's coming down with it.
He's a high flyer. Yeah, 100%.
I'm betting that it's not a 50-50 ball. That's a 90-10 ball for Keon, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
I think
100%.
I think Philpott's now the lead dog in that room.
I think Philpott is going to be a top 5 receiver in the CFL this year.
Yeah, no, I
Like,
agree. I think it's his room, and I think learning from Greg Ellingson, a guy that's done it for so long at such a high level, it is only going to help him.
yeah, no, 100%. And then jumping into the guys new to the CFL here, there's one name that just jumps off the freaking board for me here, and I am so excited to see him play, and that's Courtney Davis out of Texas A&M. He was a really early signing for an American guy. Like, I think on the first day of free agency, we saw him join Montreal. And what I love about this most, and I don't know if you picked up on this, Courtney Davis is wearing 87, which is kind of crazy. Obviously taking Gino's number his first year out, but dude, you watch this guy's tape. I don't know how Courtney Davis isn't on an NFL roster right now. Like,
Look, and talking to Courtney, man, since he signed, and it's been a couple months, and just talking to him a couple times over those couple months, I agree, man. I think he's going to be a dog in this league, and he wants it. He wants to be that dog. He wants to prove to everybody that he should be in the NFL, and we're getting a guy that's hungry to be here, man. And
yeah,
there's no better football player than some guy that comes out and is hungry and has something to prove.
Yeah, no, 100%. He's without a doubt the person I'm most excited to see in all of camp. And I've obviously with Shayne, we were talking about it a little bit before. We're gonna make our way up to Trois-Rivières, check out Al's camp a little bit. So if any of you are there, come say what's up. But
I just want before we move on here, what I was going to say about the receivers before,
yeah,
and the draft, and a guy that I think might be an odd man out now, but that shouldn't. But a reason that maybe they didn't draft another receiver is maybe they knew that Hergy was coming back.
Yeah.
Because, and the reason I say that he might be an odd man out is because he doesn't have the playbook. He probably just got the playbook, and he's behind on other guys because he was not in the CFL anymore and unfortunately got released. But
it also is a brand new playbook, eh?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is
Yeah.
Moss? He hasn't had a chance to really learn all that playbook for as long as the other receivers. But if he's not an odd man out, and maybe I'm just overthinking it, it wouldn't surprise me if that's why they didn't draft any receivers, because they knew he was coming back.
Yeah. And speaking of which, I think we can all say we're fired up that Urgy's back too.
Oh,
Like
100%.
he was on my top 5 must re-sign. And again, I honestly couldn't be happier that he's back.
No, Montreal boy, you can never turn your back on those boys.
No. And then just quickly before we jump to the O-line, 3 names that signed around the same time as Q that I'm excited to see too are going to be Kashawn Abram out of Kent State. Where's the other? And Tyshawn James as well, that I'm fired up out of Central Connecticut. He's another one of those guys, reached out to us right away. Obviously, we were able to chop it up with him a little bit, and he's fired up to be here, right? Like I think that's the common theme this year. A lot of guys are just super excited to be here. And that's a huge recipe for success, especially
I
with
know
all these guys.
I know there's a lot of depth at that position, but a guy that I'm really excited to see is a guy that I think signed like last week or 2 weeks ago in Austin Mack. Went to Ohio State, had a tryout with the Giants, and honestly looked solid. So I'm excited to see what he could do if he sticks around the CFL. Like I said, I liked watching him at Ohio State. I thought he was a very good receiving prospect at Ohio State. Obviously, didn't work out for him in the NFL, but would love to see what he could do on a bigger field.
Absolutely. So let's jump to the O-line quick. This one will be fairly quick. They didn't sign a lot of offensive linemen or bring in a lot of offensive linemen. I think that's due in large part to us just being comfortable with where we're at, right? Obviously, at tackle, from what I'm seeing, the only 2 tackles we have on the roster are going to be Nick Callender and Landon Rice.
Which are your 2 starters?
Again, those are 2
all-star starters.
Those are 2 all-stars, right? So not even much to comment on there. And then obviously on the interior, we have David Brown, Rodeem Brown, Jalen Burks, Patrick Davis, Jesse Gibbon, who we signed this offseason. Theo Grant obviously just came in as a draft pick. Sean Jameson, who obviously will be recovering a little bit, right? He had that knee injury or leg injury last year. Our boy, Justin Lawrence, all-star at center. He will obviously come in and make an instant impact. P.O. Lestage, who I would be shocked if he's not an all-star this year. And Jamar McGloster, who, again, another fan of the show, friend of the show, big foodie. Spoke to him last week.
Mhm.
He's one of those ones we're sending over all the recommendations to. But you look at this O-line, and there's not really much to pick at, right? You have your clear-cut starters and fantastic depth behind them. So I'm fired up. I think, we said it all offseason. Justin Lawrence is one of the most underrated signings of all of free agency across the CFL. And it just shores up the middle of that O-line, especially with Sean Jameson injured.
Yeah, I mean, he was I think my number 2 on my top 5 most wanted, and that O-line's coming back. And when Sean Jameson comes back, I know when I talked to him, he said he wanted to, if everything went well, he wouldn't miss any time. I think he's going to miss a couple of weeks, but uh, Lawrence comes in and there's no, it doesn't hurt the team at all. And when Jameson comes back, the O-line just gets even that much better.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And then jumping over to the defensive side of the ball, this one we'll be able to go through a little bit quicker. Obviously, starting at linebacker, huge loss for the Alouettes. I guess there's no other way to call it than, Chris Aki retiring. I think that's a huge loss for the Alouettes. But at linebacker right now on the roster, Jalen Alexander, who I'm not familiar with, out of Purdue. He's a young guy, though, 23. Tyrese Beverett, who I think will have an all-star season this year. Fred Chagnon out of Montreal. Rashad Harding. Brian Haralimana, who just signed an extension as well. Bryce Notary, Alec Poirier out of Laval. And then I don't know if we want to call him a D-line or a linebacker. We were talking about it before. And Terrell Richards. We don't know if he's going to play in the middle, play off the edge. But
I'd love to see him come off the edge. Personally.
I would love that too. 100%. Number 1 draft pick last year. Didn't see a lot of him or any of him really last year. And then lastly, one of our biggest free agent signings on defense as well, Avery Williams. So Shayne, I'll let you touch on this a little bit, obviously. I know we spoke a bit before about Terrell, but just your thoughts on that whole situation.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I've said it countless times, and edge, you can never have enough edge talent. And I think Tyrell Richards, not that he's not going to be a great linebacker, but it sounds weird to say, but like a Michael Parsons type role. Throw him off the edge, he could do it. Put him at linebacker, he could do it. It's just more about what you need in that certain game. And if you're not getting enough pressure, you could throw him up on the edge. And if you could play him at linebacker. But to me, the linebacker position is a guy that you didn't say, and a guy that I talked to recently, and I think our most recent episode is Reggie Stubblefield. Talked about him and his versatility, and I'd love to see him get a shot at linebacker. He said he loves playing close to the line of scrimmage. He's a dog. He's a tackler. He loves tackling. He loves making a big hit. So why not look at him? And he said that Montreal's looking to use his versatility too.
Love to hear that. And then jump into the D-line, another super deep position group that I won't get into everyone here, unfortunately. But again, the names that stick out are big names here, like Mondo Sewell, obviously first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't think there's much to say other than that. Unreal to have in the locker room, and we're again so lucky to have him at this stage of his career. Someone who can, and you can fight me on this too, I don't know if you have the same sentiment, but easily lead the CFL in sacks with a full season under his belt. Jamal Davis, obviously started the year off last year in the NFL, joined us midway through the year. Vincent Desjardins, Jabari Ellis, Mustafa Johnson, who last year you just seemed to hear his name all the time at the game,
Especially
right?
late
It was,
in the year.
what's that? Yeah, late in the
Especially
year,
late in the year.
especially. Yeah, especially. Lars Simon Sandberg, obviously, who we signed or drafted in the international draft. Brock Gowenlock and Nick Usher, which again, Nick Usher and Jamal Davis coming off opposite ends or wherever they're lining up is one of the most elite pass rush duos in the CFL, without a doubt.
Yeah, I'm gonna go into the interior D line, and I'm a big Jabari Ellis guy. I don't know what it is, but I'm a big Jabari Ellis guy, and love to see him get a bigger role and be that run stuffer on short yardage. And this D line, I know I said lack of depth or whatever, but they got dogs, and when they're going, they're tough to stop. So let's tee them up and get them going early, and hopefully it lasts the whole year.
100%. And then quickly here, jumping over to DBs. obviously re-signed today, I think it was Tyson Copeland, a draft pick from last year. Obviously friend of ours as well. We've known him for quite a while since we were, teenagers, but fired up to have him back in camp. Marc-Antoine Dequoy, again, the incredible safety out of Montreal, who's I have no doubt is going to have another unreal season. One of Shayner's big, asks this offseason, Deontay Evans is back. Nafis Lyon back from last year again, a great depth guy. Najee Murray, who I think Shayner said at one point this offseason has the potential to be the best DB in this core. Jamal Roll, Deontay Ruffin, Wes Sutton, obviously, which was a huge extension. Reggie Stubblefield, like we mentioned before, one of him and Q are up there with my two most excited to see in camp. Reggie Stubblefield, I think they signed on the same day or a few days after each other too, out of Kansas State. And then Raheem Wilson, who like Lyon last year was just unreal down the stretch for us. Unbelievable depth guy that, stepped in and really never missed a beat.
Yeah, and I think you kind of just said it. The person I'm most excited to see, and the role they have now with Jamal Roll and Deontay Evans coming over, is how are they going to fit Najee Murray into here, and where is he going to play, and what's his playing time going to be like? Like I said, I think he's got maybe the most talent in that room, underlying talent in that room, and could be a CFL All Star. And I'm excited to see his game grow, and how are they going to use him with all these big name guys coming in and creating and moving everybody kind of one spot down the depth chart.
So that pretty much does it for the roster. We have a little bit of time left here, but the one I want to ask you two questions. So if you had to give me right now, if we had a game tomorrow, you're starting 4 or 5 receivers and you're starting 4 or 5 DBs. Well, we'll go 5 DBs, but
I'll
give them
go
to be quick here.
receivers first. I mean, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go Keon, Greg Ellingson, Tyson, Reggie. Well, Reggie's not going to be there, so I'm going to go based off experience. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to snag Hergy Mayala to start there. DB, it's Deontay, Jamal Roll, Wesley Sutton, Najee, and then Dequoy at safety.
That's a great DB core, man.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm going with the exact same DB core. I'm going with the first 3 receivers you said. So Ellingson, Philpott, and Keon and KJG. And then at number 4, I think he's going to blow us away at camp. He's going to adjust to the CFL game. I'm going Courtney Davis as a
Dude, I would love nothing more than to see Courtney Davis on the field. To me, I'm just starting him here on my depth chart at 5.
Yeah.
And if 5 wide, he's on the field. And,
100%.
I'd love to see him take that spot as the 4th receiver, but I'm going to go and say 5 wide. He's my 5th receiver.
Beauty. And then my last question for you here. I think we'll have the same answer. Who is going to lead the Montreal Alouettes in touchdowns this year?
Total touchdowns?
Total touchdowns.
Caleb Evans.
100%. That's my answer too. That's my answer too.
I was trying to give an answer I didn't think you were going to give, but no, I mean, we saw Dommy D do it last year, and I miss my boy Dommy D already. We all know that I'm a big Dommy D fan. I'm going to be rooting for him out there in BC. But I mean, if he could do it, why can't Evans, right?
100%.
So
perfect, man. So that is again, not the season preview. We'll run another episode once, life from camp comes. Obviously, there could be some trades, some signings, some cuts that, we don't see coming. So we will give a full, season preview when that time comes. But for now, that was the post-draft special, the training camp special. Obviously, like I said before, Shayner and I are going to make our way out to camp. Not sure when yet, but keep an eye out on the Instagram story here. And we'd love to meet some of you guys. Obviously, we'll be hooked up with some of the players, but that is all for this week. I can't wait for camp. Shayner, any last words here?
I'm fired up to get the season going and fired up to meet the guys out there at camp and talk to some fans out there too.
100%. Anyways, everyone, have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.